Everything you wanted to know about getting set up to run a successful digital campaign this week on The Core of the Matter, brought to you by CoreComms. Welcome. I'm Adrian Smith, Managing Director at CoreComms. We deliver marketing and communications with passion, excellence and trust. Who are the admins? Whose credit card do you use? And what's the credit limit? Why do I need a pixel now? Today on The Core of the Matter, we're talking to CoreComms digital specialists Pauline and Henry Burrows about what boxes you need to tick before your campaign starts. We're not talking about running the campaign, we're talking about the setup, because in our experience, the fast-paced world of digital marketing is leaving some brands behind. So why is the setup so important? Well, in part, we've got Russian bots and fake news to thank, where governments and users are demanding higher standards from social media platforms. This means they're demanding more accountability from users. How's this for a stat? 38% of American social media users have shared fake news in the past. So, team, welcome. I guess with that statistic around fake news, you guys are in the at the coalface of digital marketing campaigns, and you're having to deal with these rules and regulations. What's the biggest issue that you're encountering in the setup of a campaign, Henry?
Well, one of the biggest things that we've been finding with clients lately is that they're not ready and have their digital assets prepared to go when it's time to launch a campaign. So often they'll come to us with a time constraint and they want to get things up and running, but we're going through the process of organising their assets, getting the correct permissions, and that gets in the way of, at the end of the day, what we're trying to do, which is launch a quality campaign. So I think that's definitely something we've been coming across.
And that asset, that's that platform that you guys are in the back end, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So if we're looking at, Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, it's just ensuring that they're aware of, who has the access, how they can access it, and give us what we need to do to be able to help them launch a campaign.
And Pauline, for you, what's that biggest issue you're encountering?
Yeah, I think following up what Henry's just shared, clients not having access to their digital assets or having lost access to them is a really, really big thing. And it happens way more often than you'd think. And it can delay the whole campaign because we're trying to understand who had access, how they can regain access, and then once that's sorted out, another little hurdle that we can encounter is understanding how they can share their digital assets with us with the correct permission, so we can come in as their partners and advertise, for example, if it's an advertising campaign purely. So really what we really want for our clients, right, is to have that full understanding of what digital assets, so the accounts that they have, what they are. We want them to be able to access it whenever they want to, so that, they can look at information, they can look at past data if they wanted to. It's really important for them, right? We want them to have that access.
Absolutely, yeah.
We're not here to take over, right? We're here to be partners for them. And when all of that is set up properly, then we can spend time working on campaigns, which is what we love doing.
And it's not an unusual situation to be in. If you think about, if it's a government department or a public utility or even a big organisation, they will have, a number of people in a marketing team. They might have staff turnover. These are it's a pretty dry subject, but it's actually critical, isn't it? And we've had instances in our client base where somebody has access, has been disgruntled and left, and then refuses to give access to us to run a campaign for a client that they don't even work for anymore. So, from a business continuity perspective, the risk people in a big organisation would like to know about these sort of issues.
Oh, definitely. And that's why it's really important to understand how each platform is structured, right? So you can understand how to gain access, how to remove access, how everything should be organized so this situation never happens, because you should never have only one person with the access to the account. You should always have, for example, 2 admins. So an admin is someone who has, full control over your accounts and over your assets. 2 of those at any given time, minimum.
Absolutely. And it's so important. And we've found on multiple occasions people haven't had this set up. And like you said, you come into a campaign and they say, oh, we had an intern create our business manager years ago. We can't track them down and we can't get a hold of it. So just knowing that from the outset can be really important.
And I guess that's a change of our approach. We're going to delve into every platform and get across that for people to understand that. But I guess that key message for, CEOs and marketing managers that are listening into this podcast is, get your access sorted out. You do it with your internet banking and you do it for all your other things. So,
Exactly.
it's same from a business perspective. And I guess getting to understand that, with some of these platforms, you need to use your personal profile to be a part of that. Like that just is, if you're in the game, that's just what you got to do.
Yeah, exactly. It's one thing that can challenge people a little bit because, there's always questions around, privacy and what does this mean, for me and for the kind of the personal side, of my life online. And it can feel daunting at first, but there really isn't any reason for this, because everything is set up in such a way that if you want to access your professional life, your professional assets, your campaigns, where you'll log in and the platform that you will see in front of you is going to be completely different than your personal profile. It's not the same.
Yeah.
But we definitely have felt in the past that it feels daunting, when you start going into the nitty-gritty, and we'll talk about that in a moment, right, of what you need for each platform. It can feel like a lot if you don't understand, what each platform or each component is for. It can feel like a lot, but it isn't. It's all very logical. And like you said, like you would do for your internet banking, you keep track of what you have, you know how to access it, who has access, and you just keep up to date with that.
Great. All right, so we'll jump into the first platform, and it's the biggest one. It's Facebook. So, Henry, can you tell us a bit about that? What's that ideal structure for a client or a brand so they can start a campaign successfully?
Absolutely. And like you said, it's still the biggest advertiser. So if you're going to focus on one thing, Facebook's a really good place to start. So you really want to focus on, one, having your Facebook page, which is an easy one. Everybody, that's what you'll interact with when people search you through Facebook. And then you need to have a business manager, which is sort of where you can organize your digital assets as well. And your Facebook page will live within this business manager. And then you need to have a Facebook ad account as well. So the ad account is where you'll set up and deliver your campaigns and work through that. So within these assets, they all live within the business manager. And that's the best way to sort of be able to control the assets. And when it comes time to give permission to advertisers like us, you can jump in there and organize all of these.
That's really, really important. And one of the things that we see a lot with Facebook and a question that comes up a lot is, well, can't I just boost a post on my Facebook page?
No boosted posts.
No boosted post. And it isn't the same, right?
No,
just
absolutely.
isn't the same.
Yeah, it's, Facebook has sort of enticed people to go for that option, and they feel empowered that they can do it themselves, and they think, oh, why do I need an advertiser if I can boost a post? But there's just, it's such a difference between a quick boost and a well thought out and structured campaign.
Yeah.
You really can't compare the two options.
And the people listening, they would see boosted posts all the time because they would look at it and go, why is that? That's in another city, 500 kilometres away. Why am I getting sent that? I'm not even interested in it. That's because someone's boosted a post and they just don't have that control, do they, around all those different parameters?
No, they don't have the knowledge to make sure that every element of the boosted post is done properly. And you also don't have as much options and as much details when you boost something from a Facebook page directly. You don't. And you also kind of have to think about the fact that if it's something that is simplified and is supposed to be made as a kind of shortcut, you're probably going to end up having shortcut results, right? Yeah. It just happens. It's just a fact. Everyone, who's worked with, the ads manager on Facebook, for example, versus observing the results of a boosted post, usually the results won't even compare, you know. And not only that, but if you want to go back to something that you've boosted, it lives on the page as like a kind of messy post that's been turned into an ad, versus when you have the structure that Henry's described, you know, you've got your business manager, and that's your kind of big dashboard, and from that big dashboard you can access different pages, you can access different ad accounts, you can see very clearly your different campaigns, organize them very clearly, have way more options to target people. It's just a no-brainer.
Absolutely. And when you have that campaign structure rather than a boosted post, and if you're going to advertise again in the future, being able to jump back in and actually have detailed results and be able to look at these results to plan your next campaign is super crucial.
Yeah.
And I guess that's a really good point, Henry. If you're thinking, if you're a marketing manager listening to this now, and you're battling up the line to try and get more focus and get better results. That data piece is just critical, isn't it, in terms of being able to report back how something went, and then using that data the next time around that you're going to do it. And we're not talking about we set up the business manager and we have ultimate control. The way that we set our clients up, and correct me if I'm wrong, they can go somewhere else. They just know that when they give the keys to another agency that's actually going to be really, really well set up, and they're going to go, oh, this is all great. Here's the last campaigns. Here's all the data we need, and they can go on. So it's for people like us and other agencies that are wanting to get this work done, it's actually adding value to their business.
Yeah, definitely. And think about it as Facebook wants to know who's doing what on their platform, quite simply. So everyone should have their business manager. So us as an agency, we have our own business manager. Our clients have their own business manager with their Facebook page, their ad account, and then they give us access, for example, as an advertiser. And then we can access their assets and set up campaigns for them on their behalf, but everything lives within their business manager.
Yeah.
They own it.
Absolutely. And I think the temptation from a client perspective is if they're not familiar with the platform, it's, okay, I don't want to be jumping in the back end and I don't know how to give permissions. Can you just do it for me and run it through your ad account? Where it's cutting a corner, and it's in their best interest that they can access everything. It's full transparency with an advertiser. So if we can encourage clients to not be afraid to actually get in and make changes in the back end of the campaign and have your advertiser help you through the process, that's the perfect result, really.
And I've seen, I've walked past Henry's desk on multiple occasions, and he's been on the phone or on Teams or Zoom actually stepping a client through how to actually get that set up. And it's actually not that hard, right? Like if you can set up your own Facebook page, you can you can work with someone like us or another agency to actually get your business manager set up so it's owned by you and the business. But you've got that way of accessing, so we can jump in and do a campaign or another agency, and they can deal with staff turnover and the other things that just pop up that create that access issues.
Yeah, and it's really in their best interest to do that from the get-go, because once it's set up, you don't ever have to do it again. It's done. And then you give access to the people that you want. You organize your employees within your business manager and give the access where relevant to the relevant people. Where it can get tricky is, someone's created a Facebook page a long time ago and you don't have the full access to it for some reason. You're not the admin of the page. And then you want to create your business manager way after. But to transfer the page into your business manager and being able to manage everything from there, you have to be an admin. You have to have full access to your Facebook page. So if you do it from the get-go, you create your page, you create your business manager, you add it into the business manager, done, sorted. You never have to think about it ever again.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing that we approach with this sort of perspective is a Facebook pixel, where it's people, when they're coming to do a campaign, they want to get a pixel sorted last minute. So for people that aren't familiar, a Facebook pixel, it's a piece of code that you put on your website and it can measure data from a platform. So when you're running a traffic campaign, for example, you can see how many people are ending up on your website. Once they're on the website, what sort of actions are they completing?
Yeah.
And just having that on your website to be gathering data before you come to do a campaign is just so important.
It is.
Really
It
helps
takes
with
time.
targeting and for you guys, you know,
Yeah.
when a client says, yeah, I've got a Facebook pixel, I know you guys are like, great. We know,
I
you know, we know a
know.
bit about the people who are already
Absolutely.
As a
engaged with your
goal.
brand.
Yeah, it's the ultimate goal. And for some types of campaigns, right, you'll need a pixel. It's a non-negotiable. So, for example, let's imagine that someone, you know, they really want to understand when the people go to the website, that they're waiting for the page to load and actually spend time on the website. That's called, you know, a landing page view. If you want to being able to monitor that, you need a pixel in place. There's no other solution. Otherwise, you cannot do it. And like Henry said, there's a whole lot of prep. So, you know, to have a pixel in place, you have to install a little snippet of code onto your website. And then very often you have to verify your domain within your business manager and then set up the different actions that you want to monitor. So if you're selling something, tickets to an event, for example, you know, you might want to monitor, okay, how many people actually land on my website? And then how many of these people go into the section to find out more about the show? And finally, how many complete a purchase, right?
The big one.
Exactly. And you need a pixel to be able to monitor all of this.
Yeah, exactly. And without delving too deep into the campaign part, which we're trying to avoid, we're trying to be on setup. But when it comes to retargeting audiences from, you know, pixel events, if somebody's visited the website but they haven't actually made the purchase, you can send that reminder and say, you know, send them a retargeting ad, and that's crucial.
Yeah. And you see, I'm sure everyone listening would recognise those ads when it was like, oh, I was there yesterday. They're back at me already. That's that at work.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Anything else on Facebook before we go on to Instagram, which I know is sort of very similar?
I would say one of the kind of classic confusions that we observe when it comes to Facebook Business Manager, particularly, is a confusion with Facebook Business Suite. And Facebook has launched kind of different levels of, you know, access and platforms. And Business Suite was basically introduced as a kind of midway in between what used to be the Creator Studio, where people could create content, right? And the Business Manager, where, you know, that's your big dashboard where you can access everything. So it's supposed to give you a bit more access to everything. You can launch ads from it, for example. You can create content from it. But it's not your business manager. So, for example, when we partner with a client and we have to link our two business managers, often people are in Business Suite and they're telling us, well, I don't see the invite, or I don't see how we can give you access. And it's because you're in Business Suite, not Business Manager. So you have to really pay attention, look at the little, you know, top left corner. If it says Business Suite, you're not in the right place.
But one of our values at Core Comms is trust. And so I guess, you know, people listening to this, when we come to you, just trust us and we'll step you through that process and make it as easy as possible. Yeah. Cool. We might move on to Instagram if that's cool, Henry.
Sure thing.
So I guess Instagram actually hangs off Facebook anyhow. So is there anything you want to add to that ideal structure for campaigns?
Well, yeah, it's very similar. It's within the Meta family. So you have your Instagram page within your Business Manager and Business Suite. So it's a linked asset to these. And then if you're running an Instagram campaign, it's going through Facebook ad accounts. So typically, if you don't specify, you'll be running on both Facebook and Instagram. But if you want to run purely an Instagram campaign, you can opt to do so. But it's through Facebook Ads Manager.
Yeah, great. Okay, so LinkedIn. LinkedIn's an evolving space. What sort of things are we encountering, and you know, what's a good setup look like, Pauline?
So I think you'll find that through the different kind of platforms, the setup is often similar. So on LinkedIn, you first need a profile, right? Your own LinkedIn profile, and a LinkedIn page for your company. So you don't necessarily need a company page to run ads. You can run ads from a personal profile, but it will come from you, and you also won't have access to all the ads options. So in the case of our clients, very often they have their own profiles on LinkedIn, then someone has created a company page, right? And then you will have your ads manager, which is called campaign manager on LinkedIn, where your ad account will live and you'll be able to schedule your campaigns from. And very similarly to Facebook, you'll be able to create a LinkedIn pixel, which is called LinkedIn Insight Tag. And again, it will track actions that people take on the website if that's the kind of campaign that you want to run.
Great. And Twitter, what are we thinking about with those sort of platforms?
So Twitter is a little bit easier in terms of its setup. So you need a Twitter account, quite simply, Twitter handle. And then once you've created this, you'll be able to switch to Twitter Ads Manager, and you'll have your ad accounts there. And if you have access to different types of ad accounts or different clients' ad accounts, you'll be able to switch from there directly. And you'll have your Twitter pixel as well living in there. So yeah, fairly easy and straightforward setup for that.
Yeah, great. Snapchat, Henry. So we're using Snapchat a lot in a lot of our campaigns. What are the kind of things, I guess, from my experience, when you start talking to clients about using Snapchat and TikTok, their eyes glaze over, or they just think that they're going to be dance videos and they don't want to do them. But, legitimate platforms to be marketing on. But, when a business might have a Facebook page, Snapchat's, might not be within their orbit at all. So what are the kind of things we need to be doing in that world?
Absolutely, yeah. We used to face more reluctance when it came to Snapchat and TikTok ads, but I think with repeat clients who have been using the platforms, we've actually found really incredible results. So it's definitely come into our platform mix a lot more lately. But if you're looking at Snapchat from a setup perspective, you don't need to have an official account like you would on Facebook when it comes to a page. So we can run for a government department through our ad account that we hopefully get them to get their own ad account. But what you do need to have is a personal profile. So still similarly to Facebook, you need to set up like that, have your personal account linked, and then create the ad account as well. And similar to every other platform these days, you will have the pixel option, which we would prefer if possible.
Yeah. Yep. And is it similar with TikTok?
Absolutely. The same with TikTok. So if as I was talking about before with the page setup, we can run ads through a custom identity, for example. So we don't have to link to a page that you have established, but we can run under the name that you want to run, which makes it more flexible in that sense that there's a little bit less setup. But with TikTok, there's also your business center, which is kind of like the business suite or business manager of Facebook. So, but when it comes to the structuring of the campaigns, most platforms have followed the Facebook platform where it's your campaign, your ad set, and then your ad level. So if you're jumping in for the first time, it's not too different to what you're used to if you're very familiar with Facebook.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a very big difference when it comes to Snapchat and TikTok. If you compare it with Facebook, Facebook, you need to have a Facebook page to advertise on Facebook. There is no, you can't pass it. On TikTok or Snapchat, it doesn't matter. You don't need to have, for example, a TikTok account with organic videos living on there. You can just create your, it's almost like an account, and then your ad account, and run ads. And you specify to the platform, this is my logo, this is my identity, this is how I want to appear on your platform. So yeah, it's a little bit less of a setup, and there's no need for organic content, although we always encourage a good mix of organic content and ads.
It's a bit more authentic, isn't it, for the user
absolutely.
in their experience, because they will actually trust you a bit more if they can actually go and have a look and go, oh yeah, they're a real thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, and it's a natural curiosity when you're served an ad. If you're not going straight through to the link, you might click on the organic profile and have more of a look. And I think it's definitely, you can represent your brand with the organic to kind of support whatever you're advertising.
Yeah.
Definitely. And a really good stat actually that we were given from a TikTok representative is that 1 in 3 TikTok users, they're not on any other platforms at the moment. They're not. So if you won't be able to reach them unless you advertise or you communicate or share things on TikTok. So when it comes to us in Tasmania, the total audience is still considered niche by the platforms because we're not in the millions, right? But it's growing, and it's growing everywhere. So when it comes to, video content and platforms and how to reach specifically younger audience, right? TikTok is definitely something that we always put on our clients' radar.
Yeah. Great. Okay, and last of the platforms is YouTube and Google Ads, which will sort of roll into one because they sort of all one. Pauline?
Same family?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a little bit same situation than Facebook and Instagram, right? So for that, you basically need a Google Ads account. You can create a Google Ads manager. And again, it will be like your manager account, and you'll log in and you'll be able to access different ad accounts. So that's very useful if for example, you're running, it's perhaps a government agency or, a really big corporations, and they have sub-teams, and these teams need to have their own ad accounts. So that's when you would want to have your ad manager. And for example, you'd have, the Europe team has their own ad account, for example. The Oceania team has their own ad account. So this is the kind of setup that you have to keep in mind as well. And when it comes to tracking actions on the website, it's called a Google tag. And similarly, you'll want to have it installed on your website to kind of track actions. When it comes to pixels, because one thing that we're very aware of is if you're running a cross campaign, across many different platforms, and you have all these pixels that you need to integrate to your website, it can feel a little bit daunting. It can feel like a big task. There's something called, Google Tag Manager, and you integrate that little snippet of code to your website, and then you feed your pixel through the Google Tag Manager, and it automatically installs them to your website.
Yeah, right.
So that can be a really, really great thing to have if you don't want to be, contacting your web developer every 5 seconds to install code on your website.
Yeah. So a lot, I guess, to digest there, and we can leave some links up for people to on the podcast page for them to actually delve a little bit deeper with that. Yeah. So I think that's a really great sort of overview of all the things that brands and businesses need to be thinking of. So tell me, Henry, for you, what sort of campaigns need more preparation in their setup? Where is it where clients and brands will really stumble?
Yeah, so even if you're set up with all of the things we've talked about, if you want to run an ad that's classified in a special ad category, you can find that there is additional things that you'll need to do to ensure that you're not flagged by the system. So there is 4 special ad categories that you need to declare through Facebook, but within Australia, the only one that we really need to worry about is social issues, elections or politics. So if you're running any campaign where you're strongly advocating for or against an issue that could sway an election or is a contentious issue, you could possibly be operating in this sort of space. So if you're making the effort to go through Facebook and assure that you're not in this category, and if you are, what you need to do is, one, you need to confirm your identity with Facebook. So this isn't having a blue check. This is going into your settings and in your management page section, uploading photo ID. The only catch is that we found you have to be an Australian citizen. So, ensure that someone on your team has the capacity to be able to do this. And then from there, you can create a disclaimer on your web page. So what the disclaimer allows is if somebody sees the ad, it will show this is from this particular department. So it declares that to the public. But another thing to keep in mind, if you are operating within this special ad category, it limits a couple of things. So your actual delivery, you'll be only able to run feed placements. So there'll be no Instagram stories, no marketplace Facebook ads. It's purely on the feed. which some people definitely aren't aware of. And then when it comes to your detailed targeting, you have to run broad age range 18 to 65 and can't really get down into niche target markets to try and avoid the bias if you're going for a contentious issue, getting that to everybody. So yeah, just being aware of this and having those set up ready to go is definitely important.
That's a big stopper, isn't it? And I hear conversations in the office where you guys are, like, we can't start now because we need to go through this process. Like, and that's in particular, like our business, we deal a lot in like social marketing. So, behaviour campaigns,
we do.
Do this vaccination or get involved in this engagement or and PR. That's where that can actually trip you up. And it can be, catastrophic is probably a bit too big a word, but you can just have your ads pulled.
Oh, I mean, yeah. It's very easy to only focus on, because the category is called social issues and political, for example. It's very easy to think, right, is this a social issue? Is it to do with elections of politics? But there are actually quite a number of subcategories to consider. So, for example, anything around the environment is considered a special ad category. And you really have to think about, am I being fully neutral here? Or am I starting a discussion or potentially a debate? Because if you are, boom, you're in a special ad category, no questions asked. Yeah. And if you didn't realize, because that has happened in the past, I'm aware that, some clients or, some fellow marketers in the past, they didn't realize that it was a special ad category and they run it as a normal ad. What happens is the platform flags the ad straight away. So your ad will get disapproved and you can get in a bit of trouble with the platforms, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And then if you're, especially from an advertiser's perspective, if you're, which we like to avoid to do, but if you're running through your own ad account and then all of a sudden you're flagged for not running, and Facebook might be starting to halt your account and you're running platforms for other campaigns for other clients through that account, all of a sudden you've got a major issue. So for advertisers especially, that's something to keep an eye on.
And then, when you reach out to Facebook, they don't necessarily come running to you, do they, when those things happen?
No, they don't. They don't. So they have this habit of never quite telling you exactly what you've done wrong. So they're quite responsive. Facebook support is responsive and they will get back to you. But if you're trying to get into the nitty-gritty of, please tell me exactly what went wrong here, they won't. Because in their minds, if they tell you exactly what happened, it gives you the opportunity to try to go around their decisions, which is called circumventing, their decision. And it's also something that can put you in their bad books. And if you do too many of these kind of naughty actions, they can kind of really ramp up what they can do and what they can, put onto your account. So they can, disapprove your ads, and that gives you the opportunity to fix it and relaunch them. But if you're trying to go around their decisions, or if you're continue going, pushing ads that don't align with, their policies, they can pause your ad account for a little while. So they basically put you in a corner and they tell you, what, you've annoyed us, we don't want to hear from you for maybe a few weeks. And then they reinstate your ad account. But if you push and push and push, they will basically shut down your ad account. And if you continue pushing, they will personally put you on the blacklist. You cannot advertise on our platform ever again. And that's linked to your personal profile. So it doesn't matter if you're trying to create a new ad account, right? That will be a no. That's finished.
So when we're, that's why we want to be best practice in this, and we are.
Exactly.
But that's why we're always, working hard with our clients to make sure that they're best practice as well. Because, the last thing that we would want to do is set a client up and run a campaign on their behalf, and that very thing happens.
Yeah. That's a no-go. Yeah.
So special ad categories, do they change from country to country? So we're in Australia and we have our own particular things. Is it different from country to country?
Yeah, it definitely is. So your first three ad categories are to do with employment ads, anything to do with finance or housing. So if you're running those ad categories in Australia, we don't personally need to take any further actions. which is great from an advertiser's perspective. But yeah, if you click through and if you're not sure when launching a campaign, in the campaign setup option, you can see more, and it will list country by country where you need to worry about each different special ad category and whether that's something you need to address, because you might be running campaigns outside of Australia. For example, we have done for clients in the past. So it's definitely something to be aware of, even if you are an Australian agency.
Yeah, cool.
Absolutely.
Pauline, shadow bans. What is it? What happens in that when you've been disapproved?
So a shadow ban is basically when the platform limits your reach. They limit the reach and the awareness around the campaign that you're trying to run, and they won't tell you. So you're not going to receive a notification saying, we're not happy with you. We've put a shadow ban on your account. But what will happen is, for example, classic situation, you're getting ads disapproved, and maybe you've gone against quite a few of, the ad policies. So you're trying to relaunch your campaign, you've updated your ads, you're thinking, right, I've done all the necessary actions here so that it can go, well and smoothly. You publish it, and then there's no impressions, there's no reach. So everything is live, but your ads, they're not getting shown to anyone. And that's a shadow ban. Everything looks okay. There's nothing that you can do, but it's not being shown.
Yeah. And again, just that reminder of that setup.
And it will lift after a while. So it's not forever, but usually it's something that can really happen if you've had, a bit of a trouble with, maybe your creative had a few, things in them that didn't align with the platform policies, or maybe, you've tried to run some ads without declaring what they are properly.
Yeah, and then once you feel the shadow ban has lifted, often a way to sort of ensure that it doesn't get linked to that particular campaign again is pausing the campaign, and just anything that you were running, refreshing and creating a fresh setup can definitely help. Yeah.
We've covered a lot of ground, and there's a lot of technical details. So I think having some links for listeners is going to be really helpful, so they can delve a bit deeper. So, is there anything else you want to say, or what are the key takeaways for you guys for the day, Henry?
I think my key takeaways from today is just making sure clients are aware of their digital assets and what they require, and being willing to jump in the back end and actually, have a try and talk with your advertiser about, the sort of permissions and the sort of things that you need to be aware of is very important.
Yeah. Pauline?
Yeah, definitely. I was about to say, making sure that you always have your current employees, having access to your digital assets and keep up to date. If someone is leaving the business, revoke their access, but not before you've ensured that you got at least 2 admins minimum at all time. And you know exactly how to access your assets at all time.
So, and that word asset is the key, isn't it? We're talking about these things that can provide an enormous amount of value to a business if they're used properly. And obviously when people come to Core Comms, we like to think that that's what we do, but we really need clients, and if you're listening, a brand or the marketing manager and the CEO to get behind these and see these as actual assets and things that are absolutely critical. We're going to be doing crisis communications in another podcast where there'll be a link to on the page, and that is where these things are just they're actually critical assets for your business and brand.
Absolutely.
And so setting it up properly is just so really key.
Yeah,
definitely.
Great. Guys, thank you very much for that chat. Lots of really, really dense information, but actually really, really useful. So, hopefully people enjoyed it. That's Core Comms digital specialists Pauline Leger and Henry Burrows. Jump onto our Core of the Matter page at corecoms.com.au/podcast for links used in the making of this podcast. The Core of the Matter is produced by Core Comms, based in Hobart, Tasmania. Find us on social media and leave us some feedback. And tell us what you'd like to cover in our next podcast. I'm Adrian Smith. Until next time, harness your passion and be a nice human.